Now we move to New York. Jacob. So Jacob, let's talk about this connection between New York and the Latin American, the Caribbean market. Why do you think New York remains such a key hub for Latin American, the Caribbean investors? And how have you seen those relationships evolve through the years?
First, thank you very much for having me. Whenever I come to Latin America, the Caribbean, Miami, I remember, how much better the weather is, how wonderful the people are. So it's great to see you guys here. Luxury Portfolio International has a motto that says "well connected," like kind of old chapstick, right? And I think that's a way to describe New York City as well, although it's trademarked, I think, so I guess we can't use that term. But so I'd say globally well connected. Of course, every country is there, at least by way of the United Nations. I mean, even countries with the United States or Washington doesn't have relations. It's still there, like North Korea, for example. It's in that may not be relevant to us, but it's in New York. The dollar is very strong. It still is considered to be our kind of the world currency, the reserve currency. Could be changing in the future, but it is now. I'd say that we'd also have a robust legal framework. There's a separate housing court for disputes between landlords and tenants, whether it's commercial or residential. So that's well tested and I think well regarded as well. And of course, there's a cultural and linguistic transfer, or connection, I should say. We have a big diaspora of people. Just to name a few, there's sort of a concentration of Dominicans in Washington Heights, kind of the northern part of Manhattan, Puerto Ricans in Harlem, for example, Haitians in Flatbush and Queens, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, people are diversified throughout. But I'm just saying there's concentrations, lots of people from Latin America and the Caribbean are there as well. So I think with this integration with people who've moved there, who've established communities there, kind of a second home there. There's there's a good interconnection back to the homeland and New York, and a robust and big enough community there to do that.
Wonderful. What do you say is the current market status of the New York market, especially in terms of international demand, and what impact is global uncertainty or shifting currencies having on buyers' behavior?
Interesting time, right? So for us, including in New York, well, first, maybe I'll give some statistics in terms of where we are post-COVID and all that kind of the general. So our population is back from before COVID. Obviously, a lot of people left our city and your cities probably. To give one statistic, in August of last year, because August is when we have most of our moves, more than the end of the month, versus 2019, so a 5-year period before COVID in August of last year, we had 10% more arrivals, people moving in the city, than we had before. So that's good, I guess, for our economy. Many pandemic movers have moved back from the suburbs, and so they thought, whatever would be beautiful and quiet and trees and all that, and then they decided to come back into the city. If we look at sales of smaller homes, kind of our bread and butter, which would be condos between 1 and 2 bedrooms, $1 and $2 million in Manhattan. If we look at February of this year versus February of last year, it's 42% higher in terms of number of transactions, according to Financial Times, an article they had last month. And also many young professionals who moved in with their parents now have some savings. So now they can buy and put forth the down payment that they otherwise might not have planned to do at that age, at the age they're at now. And by the way, the largest geographic group of buyers that we have, at least as of August of last year, was Florida residents. So I thought that was very interesting. If we look at months supply, maybe use that in your markets as well, but it's kind of a theoretical concept. That is, if no new sellers came in the market and buyers continued at the current pace, theoretically, how many more months would it take for them to gobble up the rest of the inventory, right? So for us, it's 7.6 months right now. We consider a balanced market to be between 6 and 7 months, and so it's slightly toward a buyer's favor, but still very much a balanced market. The Upper West Side, where you are, I think is 5.6 months, according to our economics division, so it's even tighter where Cameron is on the Upper West Side. But so I think it's creating a unique opportunity for buyers to negotiate, and especially now with obviously the uncertainty with tariffs and interest rates and things like that, we're seeing buyers more for kind of a long-term play as opposed to short-term or flips. And I think some families are coming in as well because they appreciate the educational opportunities that we have for their children, whether it's private schools for high school or certainly Columbia, NYU, universities that we have there as well. So,
as someone with visibility across both regions, where do you see the most meaningful opportunities for collaboration between New York and Latin America and the Caribbean, whether that's through investment, partnerships, or knowledge exchange?
Maybe coming into New York first and going out, because I'm more of an expert in that than your markets, of course, but the first half of last year only saw 0.3% of transactions were from foreign investors. Typically, it's 1%, still low, but I mean, it fell quite a bit, right, versus a normal year, according to Financial Times. There's an opportunity, though, for green card-like status for someone who invests more than $5 million. So that's still there. And we're seeing condos and even co-ops to some extent, which is a special kind of legal structure we have there. The majority of our inventory is kind of back in demand. But now, as for how we can improve and how Americans can invest more, perhaps in your market, well, certainly some Americans, not all, but some are spooked by the geopolitical change happening right now. Some outright disagree with it, of course. So hopefully you're seeing that some people are retiring abroad in your markets, and hopefully your markets have picked up as well from that. I think investors are finally seeing how easy it is. Many of you talked about direct flights and stability in your country. I think Stella talked in Uruguay also about stability there. So I think that's being discovered more and more. With the rise in prop tech, I think it's easier than ever for people to communicate and transact. As a side business, I do property management for absent investors, people who are not in New York or in the US. And I'm just surprised at how easy it is to get them to sign documents, DocuSign, or transfer money, PayPal, or whatever, around the world, and how easy all of that is. And shared working space, I think, is another opportunity as well for us to collaborate. I know in Buenos Aires, throughout Capital Federal, there's multiple Regus and WeWork facilities, probably in Montevideo and in different places as well too. And that's a global brand that Americans are quite familiar with. And so if someone's planning to retire partially or fully, or trying to get a different familiar type of office space, they can certainly get that abroad too. And I think that's being discovered as well.
Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank you, appreciate it.